Fishing Derby. Fishing Derby is item 2 under committees. And I think I'll hold the changes to the closed meeting agenda until later. Councillors, any other changes, amendments, additions?
Yeah, I just under Climate Action Committee reports. I don't know if that, sorry, just clarify if that's on the agenda, but I just want to give a quick update from the last meeting.
So I'll go with that. Councillor Barmeyer, I'll make that under committees. Item number 3, Lions Bay CAC.
Yeah.
I'll turn to you. Thank you very much. Councillors, any other additions, changes?
Yeah, I see under Mayor's report, we have the Kelvin Grove raft. I kind of was under the assumption we'd be speaking about that in close because there was legal considerations that went into that. So I'm not sure if this is appropriate to be discussing it in open.
I defer to the CAO. Your thoughts?
The bylaw, the zoning bylaw is what it is, and we could talk about. We could talk about the. I guess if we're going to talk about enforcement, then we need to talk about it in closed.
Okay, so we'll strike that on the open. And municipal coordinator, can you remind me to put that on the closed? Thank you. Second. So under mayor's report, the ones that were 3 and below will move up 1. Anything else by anybody?
Did you get the on-table correspondence?
We've got lots of on-table correspondence. I've got it. I got a stack of it.
Need to add it to the agenda. B is what we usually do.
Oh, okay.
Item 11B. On
B.
table.
So it'll be 11B on table correspondence. Thank you very much, CAO. Okay, well, looks like my grocery list tonight. Okay,
sorry, there was also the additional reasons for closing.
I've got those, which
should be noted
up
at
front.
the time of adoption.
Okay, thank you. So
sorry, Ron, can I make a quick suggestion? The closed item that I was going to talk about on BaySmart, it's going to be a long meeting tonight. Why don't we just do that in the open, and I'll keep it a real brief update.
you're off under council reports you would like to add?
Yeah, just do block watch and a BaySmart team update.
Okay, you've got 2 items then. Thank you very much, Councillor Abbott.
Okay.
Okay, and so just to conclude, under the CAO's advice, the additional topics in the closed council meeting are item number D, bylaw enforcement, and E, intergovernmental relations. And the reasons are expanded beyond those in our agenda to include section 91 and add J and K, and section 90, subsection 2, item B. Okay, I think we've got it. Any other changes? Last call. Councillors, any changes? Staff, we good?
Yes.
Call the motion. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes or opposed no.
Yes.
Thank you. Carried. Thank you. Good. Which brings us to the public participation portion of the meeting for a maximum of 10 minutes. Mayor Broughton, I think you're on the list. Are you speaking on behalf of the rally?
The Olympic rally.
Yes.
I hadn't planned to. Victoria's, I'm sure, trying to get on right now, but I thought I'd better put up my hand and just give you a little bit of an overview and to welcome any questions when it comes up during the agenda time.
All right. All right.
Sounds good. And if Leslie or Councillor Cunliffe want to chime in, but just let me say that all of council is invited to this, and of course our mayor is going to be speaking at it. It's going to be really a lovely community coming together. As you know, Leslie Nolan is involved with logistics, and Councillor Cunliffe is involved with logistics. I'm the event day coordinator, and we've got a wonderful speakers list with Mayor Ron McLaughlin, our Member of Parliament, Patrick Wheeler, John Smart, a former born and raised Lions Bay Olympian from Winter Olympics, and the parents of Madison Meili are speaking, and possibly the Japanese Consul General. But what we've done is we've included Japan. We've got one of our community members, Kiko Ando, singing the Japanese national anthem, and the Japanese consulate has given us their only extra flag of Japan, which we will fly on that day along with the Olympic flags, 5 Canadian flags, and our Lions Bay flag, to give you some perspective of what that stage will look like. We also have Mary Miles has wonderfully loaned us the 2010 Olympic torch, which hopefully, health permitting, they will be there, but we already have the Olympic torch at the Broughton household. It has been decommissioned, as have all 2010 Olympic torches, so we don't have a fire hazard concern. There will be no fire, but the carbon from the 2010 is on that torch, and we'll begin with the dignitaries passing that it'll be passed off to the dignitaries, passing that torch then to the Olympians, and we have a number of former Olympians who are living in the village as well. Margaret Langford is not able to join us, and she's our born and bred 4-time Olympian. So I think that gives you that kind of picture, where we'll also, once the dignitaries have passed it off to the former Olympians, we're going to pass it off to the children and the families running around the field, coming back to the parents of Madison Meili, and then going into a real Lions Bay, go Madison, go Team Canada, go. And it will be videoed and sent to our Team Canada and Madison, through Madison. So it's a wonderful event of the community coming together. But I'll just share my own perspective, is that the Olympics is a time when countries compete fiercely with one another, but in peace. And this is just a wonderful time for us to participate as Lions Bay in that peaceful and cheerful coming together. Our RCMP are in attendance, and Constable Sidhu in his Red Surge, and our fire chief and all of our firemen, fire rescue, pardon me, men and women. And in there, thank you, I see the nod going up. So that's just an overview, and you're welcome to ask us any questions as we move along. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much, Mayor Broughton. And if Victoria joins us, if she does, that's fine. If she doesn't, on behalf of Council and Administration, thank you to her and all of the team for pulling this together. It's going to be a spectacular event, and it'll be hosted before our next meeting, and I know it's a foregone success. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
There you go. I'm going to go right to left on my screen, so it'll be John Phillips, Tamara Leger, and Ruth, please.
Hi, it's actually Diane Phillips here on John's computer, logged on. So, hi. I just had 3 requests, and I'm aware of the fact that I just have 2 minutes to make them, so I'll try to be brief. They all pertain to beautification of the village, particularly in the Kelvin Grove area. And the first concern that I'm going to raise has to do with the sewage treatment area that's just been redone. And so first of all, thank you for all of the amazing work. It's looking great with the community garden there, and just all of the planting and whatnot that's happened. That's looking fabulous. So thank you for that. My request is to plant honeysuckle on the actual wire mesh surrounding it. And the reason is twofold. One is for fragrance. It's really unpleasant at the moment like really quite awful, actually, the smell. And I'm assured by Councillor Cunliffe and others that that has to do with the bacteria settling down. So we're hopeful that that's going to improve. But I know that there will be ebbs and flows to that odor, and I'm hoping that honeysuckle will help to mask that and make it smell more pleasing. And it will also, it's really quite an eyesore, that wire mesh, especially in juxtaposition to the otherwise very beautiful garden. So I'd love to make a request that honeysuckle be planted in whatever way, with planters or just straight into the earth with sufficient soil to sustain it. So that's the first request, is a request for honeysuckle surrounding the wire mesh. The second one pertains to the berm on, I guess it's the south end of the Kelvin Grove entrance exit on the west side. It had previously been maintained well, there's a huge history. I won't really belabor it, but we had like 40 people show up to plant trees. I know Ruth Simons was really instrumental in obtaining the grant for the trees there. It was a lovely community project, and it's been sustained beautifully by Elizabeth Hudgens for a decade now. And as you know, yeah, Elizabeth is nominated for Citizen of the Year, and she's just done amazing work and contributions to the community, and is not well. So we're looking to see if the village can pick up a little bit there and take that over, maybe with the Works Department, in terms of helping to water and to just do some maintenance and weeding as needed.
Thank you.
On that
And
the last request just has to do with whether or not there's any appetite to do something on the north entrance to the highway. Kind of like 3 of the parts are covered, but there's a little part that was started a number of years ago, a decade ago, that we'd love to see if there's any capacity for planting and beautifying that other corner that's kind of just at the north end of the Kelvin Grove exit on the west side. So that's it. Just
thank you very much.
requests.
If you'll hang on for a second, Diane.
Sure.
I think on the berm, the first one you mentioned is in correspondence later tonight. So
yes, I believe John submitted that, and I think I had previously,
so you'll get something back on that.
Right.
The north entrance, which I believe is Modi property, CAO to John.
Believe so.
And what's our practice there?
We'd have to check in with Modi probably to determine responsibilities and so forth. We went through a process not that long ago whereby we devolved our responsibilities for the berms, all of the berms, back to Modi, who had, more or less left it to us. And so I think it bears a bit of careful consideration and discussion before moving too quickly. I understand that there's obviously areas that have been continued to have been maintained. So that may be different than other areas that are additionally being proposed. So I think we need to just look at it carefully and see what's involved and determine what we're looking at and whether there's any potential for doing something or not. And we'll have to have a discussion with Modi about it too.
There you go. Thank you very much, CEO DeJohn. Can we put this on your large work list pile to come back to us, let's say the first meeting in September on that?
Okay.
Thank you. And on and Diane, we've got one more meeting before council breaks for the summer. I'm sure it's going to be a telephone book agenda, so we probably won't be able to deal with it, but I think we can start the work in September. And last one, the CAO on the honeysuckle. Does that go to the honeysuckle team for decisions on that?
Your worship, I would need to check with staff on that. The fence is see-through, so it allows crane truck operators to see what they're lifting. If we have a physical barrier there, it may obstruct sight lines while we're doing maintenance. So I need to look into that.
Can I leave that with you and ultimately to respond to the resident?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. All right. Thank you very much, Diane. And I think you've got your quick answers on a bunch of stuff. Okay.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tamara.
I like to resolution 9A that I put forward a noise bylaw relaxation consideration request from 4 o'clock to 10 p.m., not 7 to 10 p.m. as is stated in the bylaw. It needs to go from 4 o'clock to 10 to accommodate the load-in setup for the band sound check. And the music typically starts at 7 o'clock, at 7:30 rather. 7:30 to 8 o'clock is set 1. Set 2 runs 8:15 to 9 p.m. There'll be an encore. So we're usually wrapping cords and wires and out there by 10:30 is our ideal. But that relaxation gives us a comfortable amount of time to set up, to test cords and cables and microphones so that we have a clean set for when the artists arrive. And I would also like to respectfully request that for consideration that with every booking that we make for the summer through to September, while council is on adjournment, that we be given this noise bylaw relaxation consideration to be paired with every booking that we make. These are ticketed with reserved seating, music listening type concerts with a listening room standard. They're mature audiences like 19 plus, but mature audiences who are typically quiet. And we have historically reasonable performer audio levels, as I think most of you have attended at least one of our events over the past 6 years. So our type of music is CBC style jazz, blues, folk, that sort of thing. And we typically keep our noise levels really reasonable because we ourselves want to enjoy and hear the music being played live for us. So thanks so much for your consideration. And then the other suggestion I would just make is just trust it to admin and staff making the booking that to ensure a reasonable audio level. That just seems very time consuming and cumbersome to come back to council for such a request when it's kind of like coming to council for a hall booking.
There you go. Thank you very much, Tamara. And let's just say thank you for making it through the marathon. And now you're sprinting again. So thank you. And I'm sure everybody's going to look forward to those opportunities. Just for clarity on the changes you've suggested. So it should be 4 p.m., not 7 p.m. And you're fine with the 10, is that correct?
Yes, our goal is to be done by 10 because we really don't like to go later than 10.
All right. And the phrase for dates which are not to be determined while council is not in session will suffice for you. And I'm fine with leaving it with administration. Does that work for you?
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Ruth?
Hi, good evening, council. Very quickly, on table, you have a letter that was received by the village from the Sunshine Coast Natural Resource District, inviting the village of Lions Bay as a stakeholder in the viewing of the areas on the Sunshine Coast, that's Gambier Island and beyond, inviting Lions Bay to provide comment on this opportunity to amend visual quality objectives. So the letter was received, I think in May. It's on table. I have offered to provide points, and I've invited people in the village also because the House Sound Biosphere is also commenting back. It's not that onerous, and I hope to take some complications out of the process for staff. Is very minimal time requirement here. But when we're given the opportunity to be invited to comment on something that has direct impact on property owners in Lions Bay, then I think unfortunately, it would be a missed opportunity. So.
Thank you very much, as always, for your detail in bringing this to our attention. You're doing the spade work in terms of data gathering and keeping us on track. Ruth will be dealing with it later on in the evening, and I'll drop you an email tomorrow with what the result is. Thank you very much. And that concludes the public portion of the meeting. And thank you to our gallery for being here this evening. Which brings us to the next piece. I'll put forward the recommendation that the time limit for the delegation which is going to follow be waived. I'll put that forward. Can I have a council member raise a second? Thank you. All in favor, please confirm by saying yes. Opposed, no.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And which brings us to the delegation. And I'm very pleased and happy to present Commissioner Dobrovolny And to those of you who may have difficulty with his name, Commissioner will be fine. And General Manager Heather McNell. From Metro, we're here to talk about Lions Bay and the regional growth strategy. So Commissioner and General Manager, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mayor McLaughlin, and thank you, Mayor and Council, for inviting us this evening. Metro Vancouver is always happy to come to members' council meetings to support our common objectives, and we really appreciate the invitation. This evening, Heather will provide a quick overview of Metro 2040, the regional growth strategy, as well as reviewing regional land use designations, how to amend the plan, and possible implications. As I understand, you have some questions regarding the designation that applies to Lions Bay. I also understand that regional planning staff were here earlier this year, and so our presentation tonight will build on that one. And also, I know that air quality staff will be here later this month to continue the conversation. So we really look forward to the discussion. I appreciate the invitation. And with that, I'll turn it over to Heather McNell to walk through a short PowerPoint and provide some information. Heather?
Thanks, Jerry, and thank you, Mayor and Council, for the invitation tonight. I'm just going to share my screen and we can walk through this short presentation. I believe this is in your agenda package this evening as well. I've just as a quick context, just wanted to show the region here in Metro Vancouver really is a federation of 23 different members, so 21 municipalities, 1 Treaty First Nation, and the electoral area. And as you're well aware, the communities really vary in size. And so Lions Bay, as you can see, is an essential part of that. Metro Vancouver makes up over 2.7 million people right now in our region, and we are growing. We add about 35,000 people a year to this region. That's the population of Port Moody joining our region every single year. And so we anticipate that by 2050, we will be adding about another 1 million people to this region, which means we also need to have housing and employment to accommodate that growth. Have a really long and strong history of regional planning here in Metro Vancouver. The first regional planning function actually was in 1949, and that was to put together a plan for the region of, at that time, 28 different jurisdictions. And so the plan that you have today, which is Metro 2040, is actually the 5th regional plan for this region. But regardless of the plan that's been in place, it sort of adheres to a number of kind of core principles at a regional scale. So first and foremost, it's about putting the growth that we anticipate coming to our region in the right places, to a network of centers and corridors. It's about protecting essential lands that we have in the region, so agricultural or food lands, our ecologically important lands, and our industrial or job lands. It's about supporting the efficient provision of services like transit and sewer and water. And it's also about supporting our member jurisdictions as you create great places and vibrant places to live, diverse and affordable housing, better mobility, and a prosperous economy. So in terms of Lions Bay joined the then GVRD back in 1971 and was part of the Livable Region Strategic Plan, which was adopted in 1996. And I just wanted to note that at that point, and I'll just show the map here, it was a simpler plan than the one that we have currently. And there were really only 2 designations in play. So there was the green zone, which is essentially all of the green that you see there. And it made up everything from agricultural areas to ecologically important to community health and recreation lands. And then there was an urban area, and that was mostly the gray that you can see behind it. And at that point, you can see Lions Bay was also part of that urban area. The white overlay that you see on this map was called the growth concentration area. And at the time, the main objective of this plan was to concentrate 70% of population growth into that growth concentration area. Now that concept didn't make its way into our current regional growth strategy. And the biggest reason is that there was a recognition that good community growth can happen in multiple centers outside of that growth concentration area. And so I'll show you our existing map now. So Metro 2040 is shown here. And the big differences between the LRSP and this plan, first of all, there's an urban containment boundary. That's the dark black line that you can see outlining in the map. There are 6 different regional land use designations, and this is a new attribute to this plan. And so every parcel in our region has a regional land use designation on it. The white is urban, the purple is industrial, The kind of salmon color that you can see down here is mixed employment. The dark green is conservation and recreation. The light green is rural. And the medium green here that you can see is agricultural. And so the real focus of this plan shifted from a growth concentration area to targeting growth to this network of urban centers that you can see in red on the plan, and to the corridors that you can see as blue lines in certain locations. So the real focus of growth management shifted a bit. In terms of developing Metro 2040, we provided a draft out for our member jurisdictions for comment in 2008. And that all of our members provided comment on this. Lions Bay did provide comment at the time and recognized that the general urban designation that sits on Lions Bay currently reflects what was in place in the LRSP, the Livable Region Strategic Plan, and was seen at that time as the most appropriate designation for Lions Bay. Then Lions Bay signed on to Metro 2040 in January of 2011 with the plan as I had just shown. And then finally, the last piece of the puzzle is what's called a regional context statement. And what I'm going to show here is the regional context statement is that linking document that shows how your local aspirations as expressed in your official community plan align with and support the Federation's objectives as laid out in the regional growth strategy. And at the time of adoption, Lions Bay really noted that there was an openness to densification. There were consideration of policies encouraging secondary suites. There was an intent to look at ways to both increase the tax base and develop a more complete community. And so that was the RCS content that is currently in place for Lions Bay. So I know there's interest at the council level at really understanding the difference between the general urban and rural designations. And the first thing that I would say is these are high level regional scale designations. And they're really intended to reflect the long-term intent that you have for your community in your OCP. So the general urban designation is intended for more urban densities. They tend to be aligned strongly with our sewerage areas, and so they are serviced for the most part. You are outliers and like Lions Bay, but they are really intended to be places where you can have complete communities and more growth. The rural designation, on the other hand, is intended for a level of development that does not require urban services, whether that be regional sewer services or transit, and that's not to your community, but within it. And the other main objective for rural designation is to protect the character of rural communities and landscapes across the region. It was never seen to be a holding place for future development. So if there are aspirations to develop these lands, rural is not the best designation for you. But I would say that, again, these are high-level definitions. We don't have measurable metrics for the rural land use designation. And this is intentional. When we went out defining that back in the mid-2000s, our member jurisdictions said we're not really open to having something like a minimum lot size define what rural is, because this shows up in really different ways across the region. It can show up like more agricultural or bucolic lands in the township of Langley or Maple Ridge, but it can also be harder to access steep slope lands, etc., in other parts of the region. So I think my takeaway here is that your OCP really is the instrument where you can define rural and urban and your long-term land use objectives for your community. And then that RCS is the way to show the alignment of your community aspirations with the Federation's objectives as expressed in Metro 2040. I understand that the community is looking at renewing OCP fairly soon, and this will be an opportune time for you to be assessing what your long-term goals are as a community, and then if appropriate to be looking for any proposed changes to Metro 2040 at that time. If you are interested in applying for an amendment to Metro 2040, it's a pretty simple process. Essentially, it requires an amendment bylaw to the regional growth strategy that requires a 50% plus one weighted vote at our board. There is an opportunity for all member councils in the region to provide a comment on any regional implications they might see. And again, the intention is really to reflect those long-term aspirations of your community. There are some timing challenges as we're in the midst of updating the regional growth strategy, but perhaps we can address that with any questions that there may be. And that's all I have. So thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Commissioner, do you have any closing comments?
No, I think that's fine. We're happy to answer any questions and see where the conversation goes.
Okay, firstly, we're not moving to make an amendment process, and I don't expect we're going to be entertaining any motion like that immediately or soon. So I guess my question is that the community is somewhat off the topic here, but relative to the designation of urban is wood burning devices. And a number of our residents who are not opposed to complying, but would prefer to use their wood burning devices at expanded times during colder parts of the year, which under the current bylaws aren't allowed. Would you be supportive of my approaching the Climate Action Committee to have that amended to reflect wood burning capability during colder than normal seasonal weather?
And maybe I'd ask Heather just to provide a little more information, because I think the intent of the bylaw, clearly was to reduce particulate matter and improve air quality, but also it was intended to have a gradual entry and also flexibility where needed. And so I know there were a number of exemptions and opportunities to continue to use wood stoves for heat. So Heather, can you maybe just add a little more context around that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So the wood burning bylaw really is intended to, as Jerry noted, to help reduce particulate matter, but through the consultation, it was really clear that we needed to take a phased approach to that. So as of May of this year, the real difference is that there is a seasonal prohibition on indoor wood burning through the warm season, so from May 15th till September 15th, unless it is the sole source of heat for a home, if it happens in an off-grid rural home, or there is an emergency. So there are lots of exemptions there. The next step and phase of that bylaw is that anybody who is using wood burning devices would declare and register those. And then there would be restricted use, but we understand that Lions Bay has already received an extension on that. So that wouldn't be taking place until 2032. And it would only be a restricted use for anybody who had chosen not to register their device. I think the tricky part is that this has been aligned with an urban containment boundary that's in Metro 2040. But again, I think that the intent really was regionally to look at ways to reduce particulate matter, but also respect the different local contexts where communities are utilizing devices.
To the general manager, the commissioner, what would your guidance be? Because my residents are asking for changes to allow for increased seasonal burning if the weather is inclement.
Yeah, and so I think that's currently allowed if the weather is unseasonably cold and it's the heating source, that's allowed under the existing draft bylaw. And so, I mean, I'm actually, just on a personal note, I'm actually in this situation as well. I don't have a furnace at home. I live in an old heritage home, and in cold weather, my primary source is a wood stove, and I'm in New Westminster, and so I've been looking at this keenly as well, and registering, following the best practice, and if it's cold, lighting a fire for heat. So I'd be happy to look a little more deeply offline if there's a concern about limitation, but I thought staff had done a fairly good job of identifying if it's needed for heat, then it's allowed, and the registering and the best practice burning is just an effort to minimize the smoke and particulates through good practice.
Commissioner, if you don't mind having a quick peek and getting back to us, I'd appreciate that. Yeah, when you have. Thank you very much. Councillor Abbott, if you've got a question, please go.
Thanks, Ron. I actually raised my hand to talk earlier before the wood burning subject came up. I wanted to talk about the UCB in general. But as some will know, I'm fairly au fait with this bylaw. And I did actually present at the Climate Action Committee on behalf of Lions Bay. So just a couple of corrections. Heather mentioned it's only if you don't register your appliance. but it's not a simple matter of registering your appliance. You have to have appliance that is registerable and certifiable, which is a modern, closed, efficient heat burning modern unit. Not necessarily efficiency may not be the right word, because there are some old units that are efficient, but it has to be that closed system, and it has to be modern and has to be on a list to be able to register. So it's not just registering, you have to have the right unit, and that's important clarification on that, because there are a lot of people that have much older units that could not register them and would have to replace them. And then just to what Jerry said earlier, you can only burn in cold inclement weather if you is your only source of heat and you're off grid. You cannot burn just because it's cold. So if you have other forms of heat, you're not off grid, regardless of whether you're inside or outside of the urban container, you still can't burn in the colder weather. You have to stop on the 15th of May. And that's basically everyone. So that's, I would suggest, Jerry, if you were burning yours in the West, you were probably breaking the law.
Yeah, no, I won't break the law. I won't break our own laws. But yeah, I mean, in the summertime, if it was a colder day, you know, we also have gas fireplaces as well, so we would use the gas fireplace and use the wood fireplace in the winter, or the wood stove in the winter. But I understand our climate team is coming here later this month to your council, and that includes the staff that are responsible for the bylaw. So we can certainly provide more clarification and get into more detail at that time as well. But you know, I guess I just bring it up to the highest level, which is, you know, wood burning is a major source of pollution and particulate matter. And so the intent is to reduce that region-wide and find a balance between, you know, that change issue and finding a balance between needs. I think the 2032 reflected that we're looking at, you know, 11 years before some of these rules apply in Lions Bay. And we'll continue to work with you and your residents to find a transition that works.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I'm going to go to other councillors if they have any questions. Councillor Barmier, do you have any questions for the Commissioner or the General Manager?
I do. I'm trying to figure out how to organize my questions. I guess if we're on the topic of wood burning, and sort of reflecting on the higher level mandates of Metro, which is, you know, delivering core services, planning for the future, and a forum for us to have a conversation. I wonder if it, you know, you look at a big region that's dense and you can sort of make sweeping decisions that make sense in that context, but we're an outlier. So I wonder if any more specific research has been done into the highway that passes through our village versus wood burning. And does that actually make sense? And why are we focused on wood burning when we've got a massive thoroughfare passing through our village? Wouldn't it make sense for Metro to focus on that and support us in that way? And I don't know what that looks like exactly. Maybe it's supporting, you know, green tech or some kind of, you know, green highway or some other way of looking at things that make sense for Lions Bay, where the focus is on wood burning. I don't know if that's the most effective thing for us specifically. So that's the comment that I have as it relates to wood burning. But in general, I have a question, I guess, to Ms. McNeil and sorry, I'm having a hard time pronouncing your last name.
Jerry works just fine.
Jerry, pardon me. If you could give us a sense of where the value is for Lions Bay and being part of this urban containment boundary. Do we get considered specifically? Do you look at things that could help us as a community specifically, or do we just fall under the larger regional context? And if it works for us, yes. If it doesn't, well, so what? We're just a small community. We don't have water. We don't have sewer. Yeah, we get a bit of support on the garbage side, but overall, the value proposition looks a little weak from my perspective. And so I wonder if in your planning umbrella and within your sort of political forum, you actually consider us.
Yeah, maybe I'll start with the first question. I'll pass to Heather for the second. And yes, we absolutely consider Lions Bay in our discussion and our deliberations. In terms of, you mentioned an excellent point regarding the highway and emissions. So Metro Vancouver is responsible for the airshed. We are the regulator. So a variety of different areas. Wood burning is only one. Automotive or light duty vehicles, heavy duty vehicles, and also air contaminants from greenhouses and agriculture and a whole series of different. So all air contaminants are part of our work, and the Clean Air Plan has strategies for those. So we've been talking about the wood burning. That's just one small portion. There is also strategies around automotive and industrial and heavy duty vehicles, and those are all contained in the plan. And so, yes, it looks at all facets of what's contributing to air pollution. And as you may recall, last week through the heat wave, we had, I think, air quality warnings for, 5-6 days in a row, where we had ground level ozone levels that were very elevated and driven by both vehicles as well as some industrial processes, as well as greenhouses. And so yes, we look at all of those different components in the plan, and wood stoves is just one component of that. Heather, do you want to speak a little bit towards the role of Lions Bay and the Federation and the value proposition?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for the question. Just in terms of the climate piece, there's a lot of climate policy that happens in Metro 2040 as well. And part of what we have is adopted GHG reduction targets. And there's a whole host of policies to support meeting those targets and carbon neutrality by 2050. We also look at health outcomes along transportation corridors, and there's policies around that. And so the policies really are intended to be a higher level to affect all of our member jurisdictions, and Lions Bay is a critical part of that. But the land use designations in your community really need to reflect your local aspirations. So it's not us imposing those on any of our member jurisdictions. That's been something that says, here's what we aspire to in our OCP in our local community, and we'd like that, and we'd like to show how those designations reflect the aspirations of the Federation on climate, agriculture, housing, transportation, etc. And so I think that realistically it's depending on what you're striving for in your community, and the regional growth strategy can support you in that.
Thank you very much, General Manager. I'll go to Councillor Cunliffe. Do you have any questions, Councillor?
I do, yeah. Thank you very much for your presentation this evening. And I heard you throw out a number of, originally there was 28 communities that were involved, and that was reduced to 23. So was that because communities conglomerated, or did some opt out? And if they did, could you please expand on why?
Sure. It's really just that the boundaries of the regional districts have morphed over time. So the Fraser Valley Regional District and parts of it used to be part of a lower mainland planning board. So it wasn't really about opting in or out of services. It was really that the entire region changed form over time. It's been very consistent since the 70s, but that was earlier in the 1940s and 50s. It was including parts of Mission and other parts of the Fraser Valley.
When the water district was first created, it included Vancouver, South Vancouver, and Point Grey. Those all amalgamated into Vancouver, present day Vancouver.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cunliffe, do you have any other questions?
No, thank you for your information. It's been very helpful this evening.
Well, thank you very much. Councillor Bain, do you have any questions?
If I could just make an observation, I've been going over some of the comments residents have sent into council over the last while, but one of the ones that, as far as the wood burning is concerned, is that the difference between Lions Bay and the densified other parts of Metro Vancouver is, this person says, the village is located in an open area where ocean and mountain winds dissipate any smoke in the air. We're not metropolitan Vancouver. And the person went on to talk about how the forest behind us is somewhat of a filter that processes the CO2 and the oxygen and all that sort of stuff. And it's not like we've got a wood burning stove, for example, in the middle of high-rise apartment blocks with each one spewing stuff out. So the smoke is dissipated to a greater degree, which it seems to us anyhow that the impact on the environment is less out here than it would be downtown Vancouver, for example. And that's sort of the sort of tone of appeal that we're getting from a good number of residents. And I wonder what your response to that would be.
Well, I think certainly it's different for sure, and clearly there's fewer stoves and greater distances. I would also say, though, the airshed is one continuous area. We have a lot of we receive a lot of feedback and very strong response from the Fraser Valley Regional District that a lot of contaminants from the metro region and even west flow eastward often through the westerly winds, and the Fraser Valley Regional District often is contending with air quality issues that come from all of the metro region, just like the Fraser River flows westward, and we see water and contaminants that come through Fraser Valley coming through Metro Vancouver and into the Salish Sea. So absolutely it's different. Absolutely there's less numbers and larger spaces. At the same time, we do share an airshed and we do share water, and so some of these goals are intended to transcend individual boundaries and try to be for the greater good. But that was part of the rationale for having a different deadline, a different transition period for this for Lions Bay, that it wasn't as critical in terms of timeframes and immediate action, and that's why there was an extension that was extended out to 2032, I think, for full implementation. And I think these are things that we'll continue to have discussions on and add clarity and see over the years how that transition takes place. The intent was to have a transition that achieves a goal, but doesn't create a number of unnecessary hardships. I would suggest that 11 years is a fairly long time, and that there will be a series of successive councils over those times, a series of successive boards, and a number of discussions between now and 2032.
Councillor Bain, are you satisfied? Any other questions?
No, that's all for now. I guess we can discuss a lot of this around the table at another time, but thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councillor Abbott, you had some comments before. You have some questions?
Yeah, no, I do. So as I said, I put my hand up to speak about wood containment, and we were talking about wood smoke, so I didn't get to ask my questions. I have looked at a lot of this literature, both the 2040 and the 2050 stuff. And I've been reviewing this urban containment boundary and the other information on the Metro website many times when I was doing the research around the wood smoke bylaw. I struggle, and I challenge anyone to look at the criteria and conclude we are urban. You go to slide number 7 that you showed us earlier, Heather, and I don't know if you can put it up if you like, but I look at those bullets, and on the first few for urban, I go, well, that's not us. We're not getting any services from Metro. If you are going to come service us, I'll change my opinion, by the way, and jump right on board. But that's not going to happen. We are not going to have any transit within the village. I just don't see that ever happening. So those are your two main criteria. We're not there. We're not getting those. Never going to happen. And then I look at the other ones, and it's like, check, check, check. We're on septics. We have small forested community. We're on the periphery of metro. You're trying to stop urban sprawl. That's the definition of it. I just honestly struggle, if anyone was given those criteria, how they would come to the conclusion we're urban. How we got there, you explained, and there's some history to that. And I might just touch a little bit on that, so a little bit of more clarity of how some of those events occurred.
Councillor Abbott, do you have a question here?
Well, I guess the first question was, Heather was smiling when I went through what I believed, and maybe Heather could comment that if she was looking as afresh as Lions Bay, if she understood it, where would she really conclude that we're urban and not metro out of those criteria?
Thanks for the question. I don't think we'd determine one or the other. We'd ask you to. And so again, we would ask the community to tell us what your long-term aspirations are, what is the best fit for your community and where you're headed, and then to put that to Metro as an application. The reason that you're urban right now is primarily historical, and because the designation came forward and the councils and community at the time supported that. If there's a difference and a different idea at this point, you believe that the best fit for the community is rural, the community is more than welcome, of course, to put that forward. And I think you'd be very accurate to say that there are many other locations that are rural in our plan right now that would be very similar to Lions Bay.
Councillor Abbott, you have another question?
I do. It's leading on from what Heather's just said. And I believe the process looks fairly simple. I would like to point out that in our original OCP, not the original context statement part, the original part, which you obviously reviewed preparing this presentation, it never calls us urban anywhere. It calls us semi-rural in at least 2 places. You must have noticed that. No different to Anmore, Belcarra, and Bowen Island, which use the same designation. So my question is that an option for us? Does this term semi-rural mean anything? Or is that no longer a sort of designation, or how does that come to be?
Certainly. So currently in Metro 2040, the designations are what they are. And so if you are interested in going from a general urban to a rural, that is essentially the option that would be before you. As we're updating to Metro 2050, we are not contemplating any additional regional land use designations. And so there is no contemplation at this time of a semi-rural, for example. It's really a choice between the two. We committed at the board level to not address any site-specific land use designation changes as part of this update. So we're addressing policy that would apply to all. But again, through our existing amendment process, communities are more than welcome at any time to request a change for parts of their community or parcels or sites or their entire community.
Thank you very much, Heather. Councillor Barmere, do you have a question?
Sorry, my last question.
We're going to move it around a bit. Councillor Abbott. Councillor Barmere, do you have a question?
Yeah, thanks. Just one more question in terms of sort of planning for the future and in the context of Lions Bay and the core services, specifically drinking water security, and specifically in the context of climate change and things. Our water source is affected by climate change potentially, and I wonder if Metro has done any studies in the past to see what it would take to link up Lions Bay, if that's even been considered in any kind of formal way, or if it's just outright dismissed because of the distance, let's say from Horseshoe Bay or wherever the closest tie-in point would be. So I'm curious if there's any kind of studies on the record, or if there's any plans to consider drinking water security for Lions Bay.
Want to start, Jerry, or do you want me to take that one?
Well, I thought I knew where the question was going, and I had an answer for that. I don't know about a specific study. What I can tell you about water security, we did just complete a long-range water supply plan, and we looked at the next 100 years. And the good news is we have lots of water in our 3 watersheds for the next 100 years. So the next 30 to 50 years, that next increment of water is to double the amount of Coquitlam water that we use, purchasing twice as much water from BC Hydro, who own and operate that dam. It does require larger pipes and to bring it in. And then following that, after about 2050, we're looking at increasing the lake capacity at Seymour, and that would be the next large increment of water. So there is enough water in the three mountain watersheds for the next 100 years. It does require infrastructure to use it, to utilize it. And we are looking at, obviously, at climate change and conservation to try to delay that investment as much as possible by using less. I'm not aware of a specific study for Lions Bay, Heather, are you, or is that something we would have to get back to them on?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I can just chime in and say again, if that is of interest for Lions Bay, we'd be open to the request. And I think that I'm not aware of one for Lions Bay, but I think that for electoral area surrounding you, we are the local government for that. And we have looked at water supply issues for parts of electoral area and what it would take to connect, et cetera. And so normally if there are folks who are interested in service agreements, it would come from communities.
Thank you very much, CAO. I think you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jaffer.
I would advise Heather to maybe talk to Inder Singh at Metro. We did approach Metro in the previous council to look at supply, and the costs were quite onerous.
Thank you very much, Works Manager. Before I go back to Councillor Abbott, are there questions from Council? None. Councillor Abbott, do you have another question?
Yeah, thank you, I do. So my next question is around the process. Described as a very simple process. I assume it culminates with us changing the regional context statement. Would that be accurate?
It's a concurrent process, and so you would ask for an amendment to the regional growth strategy map for Lions Bay, and concurrently you would ask for a regional context statement change. They could be done at the same time.
Okay. And in order to change our regional context statement, we would have to have a public participation process, I'm assuming. The reason I ask is because the original regional context statement was described by the then mayor as a workaround plan, and it says several things in there, but you would have seen about verifying it in 2016. And it was done with, in his own words, 12 people in the town hall, so very little public participation. If we did go this path, I would suggest that we do want to do public participation. But the question is it a requirement, and what would it look like? Yeah,
it isn't a requirement, although our board has a pretty strong history of not addressing proposed amendments if it isn't demonstrating the will of the community. So normally there's nothing in our legislation that says whether or not, if you're making an OCP change, you could send us a proposed amendment after second reading or after public hearing and subsequent reading to your OCP amendment. However, our board has, and our implementation guidelines strongly recommends it's after your public hearing and subsequent reading, because they would like to see that it is the will of the community in advance.
Thank you.
Another question, Councillor Abbott? Are you good for the minute?
I'm good for
I'm
now.
ready to. Good, thank you very much. CAO? My CAO to join?
Heather, I'm just wondering what does the process look like, or what happens for areas that are designated rural, and then lo and behold, they've got a project that may not look like a rural development kind of project. I think there was one in Langley a few years ago, and there was a big kerfuffle at the board level, and I forget how that ended up, but if we were to amend our designation to rural and put forward policies and create a regional context statement that is consistent with that. And we would be the ones defining those policies as I understand it and as I interpret Metro 2040. So if we feel that a development, let's just say we were redoing the commercial core here in Lions Bay, the general store and the condominiums and the adjacent townhouses, and it was one big project. And this was a, you know, sort of a, that would be probably as big as it would get in Lions Bay. You know, is there a potential that the Metro would feel that this is not in alignment with the policies that are within the designation of rural as it sits within Metro 2040 or 2050 at that point? And then what would happen? What does that look like in terms of dealing with situations like that?
Thank you for the question. You know, I can't speak on behalf of our board currently or our future boards. And I think that's our biggest challenge is that in the case with the Township of Langley, it was our board that took issue with some of the development that was happening there, but it was actually about a definition for rural at that time. When I look at your OCP and what is contemplated there, it is certainly consistent with both general urban and rural in certain aspects around the region. I can't imagine that for the scale of development you're talking about, it would be a challenge. If you were interested in going back to general urban, whether because you were looking to achieve urban level services through utilities or transit, it's actually harder to become urban than it is to become rural. So it's a bit of a higher bar. So if you go to rural, it's a 50% weighted vote at the board. And if you go to urban from rural, it's a 2/3. So that would be the real only difference.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor,
Can I just circle back to the question about Langley? Was that a discussion about taking land out of the ALR, or was that the sticking point?
The sticking point was actually around the protection of agricultural land and the size of lots and what constituted protecting agricultural land. The Township of Langley won that in a court case. And so I think that realistically what we're looking at here is high level definitions for regional land use designations. And as Mr. Jadong noted, it's really just about you determining your definitions for that. If you have a definition for rural in your OCP and you meet that and you propose it to Metro, most likely it will fit many different versions of rural across the region.
Thank you.
thank you very much. Unless there's any questions, I'll make a concluding comment. So to my councillors or to staff, any questions? There being none, to the commissioner and to the general manager, thank you both very much for coming and providing the slideshow and articulating with great clarity the vast number of questions we've got. We appreciate the path that you've given us should we choose to go that way. And we look forward to seeing the climate action folks, I guess at the end of the month that they're coming or in early September. Thank you very much to both of you for joining us.
Thank you. Our pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you, councillors, for the questions. And the next item up is review and approval of minutes of prior meetings. And there's 3 meetings here.
Sorry, Ron. I know it's out of process, but I'm guessing there's a lot of people on the call that we're listening just for the presentation. Would it be appropriate to have a quick 2-minute participation if anyone wanted to comment on it now? I know we didn't have it in the agenda.
I'll leave it to the council colleagues. Let's say, I'm just looking at my screen. Councillor Cunliffe, are you yes or no?
I'm fine with that.
Good. Councillor Barmerias, Councillor Bain, are you good?
Yeah, sounds fair enough.
Good. Let's go 10 minutes. We'll open it to the gallery. And my direction to the gallery is to, if you've written in, not focus on what you've written in. I'd ask you that you focus on what the commissioner and the general manager had to say. Thank you very much. I'll open it to the gallery. If somebody would unmic and come forward.
Hi, it's Tamara here.
All right, you got the floor.
My question in regards to the presentation was specifically for Heather. If we are part of the urban containment boundary with an urban designation, do we automatically, as part of Vancouver, Metro Vancouver 2040, have a mandate for densification? My question is specifically around the OCP and how that would mandate a change in the nature and culture and just our lifestyle here in Lions Bay. And that's, for me, a key consideration and a question that I really hope council gains clarity on, because in having listened to the presentation, I now have more questions than I certainly had before. And I'm a little bit uneasy because I'm feeling like I'm being dragged into somebody else's vision. And if I wanted to live in Vancouver, I'd live in Vancouver.
There you go.
So, yeah.
Just a sec. Thank you very much, Tamara. If I may, on behalf of council, answer that. The municipal coordinator passed me your note, but the opportunity for me to address this wasn't there. So thank you, Councillor Abbott, for suggesting we bring the public in. And just to go with your first one, just because we have a designation does not mean we have a mandate to do anything. Let's make that really clear. I think that on the UCB, there are two things that are before the community, and they seem to be confusing: wood burning and the UCB relative to development and intensification. So I think, as the gallery heard, we've kind of separated the wood burning piece aside. On the part about the UBC, this would be my suggestion to council, that within our top 11 priorities so far this year, one of them was exploring the UCB, what it was, where we fit in it, and where do we go forward. I think after tonight, we've largely had that answer, that it's basically back to the community. Metro would consider whatever the community suggests. The reality of the time clock is that we're about to go on summer break for a month in August, and we'll be back on September the 14th. That gives the sitting council 1 year of their mandate left. I would propose that this is a very aggressive council in terms of projects. We've got a number that we've knocked off, some still to go. If we were to devote full-time energy to urban containment boundary, in my personal view, it would suck the wind out of this council for the balance of the year term. My proposal to my colleagues would be that if you listen to what Ms. McNall said, it's about community consultation, figuring out what the community wants. So I would suggest that we would be cleaning the room so that the inbound council, their first project would be to go to OCP, go to the community. Let's get some feedback, and from that dialogue, the community can tell us what we want to do. It's no secret here that we are moving forward on a variety of plans in that vision. I can tell you that both the CAO and I are pitched regularly by property owners who want to develop complexes that they own. We tell them go to the community. No one has done that yet. So I think there needs to be a willingness of our potential developers to come to the community. But the most important piece here is that we've telegraphed this long and loud that we're going to move the public works facility up to the Brunswick Hill. And we're in the process of trying to negotiate that movement. Well, what are we going to do with the vacant land? Clearly, this is an opportunity for age in place, first-time homeowners, transition home, a whole bunch of things. We've got currently the water facility through our new tower to accommodate that. We've got extra capacity in our KG waste treatment plant. So we can do a variety of things, but council within the year is not going to do anything unilaterally. So my strong suggestion to my colleagues is that we look at this, thank the general manager and the commissioner for coming to us, park it for now, and it would be certainly the plank for the inbound council to go to the community. We're overdue for an OCP. It's timely to do for an OCP. We've got infrastructure needs, doing minor, and I'm talking about very modest development would facilitate that. Tamara, that's a long answer, but I think you got more out of it than you wanted. I'll take that as a yes. Anybody else from the gallery would like to come forward? There being none, we'll move on then. Back to item number 5 then, which is.
Sorry, Ron, I think you did have one. Mrs. Gerwitz seems to have a hand up. And
Yes, I have a question for Metro Vancouver representative. Sorry, I didn't catch your last name. Has there been a study of the air quality of Horseshoe Bay with all the ferries? I think it's almost like the elephant in the room is not wood stove particulate emissions on a small village with whatever we are, 500 families, 450 dwellings. I don't know how many of them have wood stoves and fireplaces. For me, if we're really looking at air quality and particulate and issues with climate change, let's look at really what's the elephant here. We have a highway that has triple or quadruple in traffic. Good for tourism, good for the ski industry, good for the development in Whistler and the whole Highway 99 corridor. That's part of development moving forward, economic development. We're looking at the ferry traffic to the island and to Bowen and adjacent. And I'm sorry, but when you're in Horseshoe Bay, you really feel there is an issue on air. So I think it's easy to shoot a little bird up there, you know, with a bazooka, than use the bazooka to really take off a mountain. So I would look at Ask Metro to maybe start focusing on where the real pollution is, being CO2 or you know, other gases and the particulates, and not really focus on a small village of 450 families. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Monica. Thank you. And my screen's fairly limited. I don't see any hands up. So we will move on to the regular council meeting of June 15th, and I'll put forward the motion that the regular council meeting minutes of that date be approved as circulated. Can I have a councillor with a hand up? Second. Thank you. Any changes, omissions, deletions, amendments? Council, this is the time to speak up. I'll call a motion. There being none, I will call a motion. All those in favor of the minutes as recorded, please confirm by saying yes. Opposed, no.
yes,
Yes.
Thank you. Next one was a special meeting of June 17th, that the meetings of that date be approved as circulated. I'll put forward that motion. Can I have a hand for a second? Thank you. Any discussion, changes, amendments? There being none, calling a motion. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes. Opposed, no.
Yes.
yes,
Thank you. Last one, the special council meeting minutes of June 21st, 2021 be approved as amended. I'll put forward that motion. Can I have a second? Thank you. All those with pretty short one. Let's just go right to that. I'll call a motion. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes.
Yes.
Thank you very
Yes.
much. Good. Moving on, business arising from minutes. Councillors, I had nothing. Anybody have something they want to pick out? There being none, we're moving on. Unfinished business, which is on foot page of the agenda. And that's the follow-up items. And number one was the Bears matter, which I think that was pulled forward by Councillor Barmare, maybe. Well, it's on the agenda, so
sorry, Ron, maybe I missed what I didn't quite catch. What did you say there for Councillor Palmer?
well, I thought that he brought this forward out of the correspondence, which was the Bears Matter Consultant resolution on need for a moratorium on wolf hunting in BC. I think he was asking council to consider it.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, these were yeah, sorry if I wasn't clear at the last meeting. I don't think we needed to bring it forward. It was simply a matter of endorsing these things. But okay, I'll look back at the notes from last meeting.
Okay. Well, let's nip it a different way. I mean, if your request, Councilor Barmere, is that you're recommending that council support this, is that the case?
yeah, I think it's an easy one to support.
Yeah.
And the second piece was it required a little bit more understanding. But it sounds like, RCMP is getting, basically there's charges for attendance at hospital. And I think there's a little bit more to the picture. So I'd have to, I'll have to go back to that letter.
All right, I'll tell you what, why don't we leave the two items, 27028, for you to refresh us on at our next meeting, if that's fine?
Yeah.
Thank you. And 209, which was the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change Strategy, and that was going to be referred to the CAC. And that has been done, Carla. So it's a strike, I presume. Staff is to get back to Mrs. Clark regarding the bins. CAO, any update on that, or does it stay?
Yeah, I haven't done anything with that. I wasn't.
Okay, we'll let it stay. Thank you. I've responded to Mr. O'Dwyer. It's done. Works Manager Jaffer, have you responded to him on the sewage odor?
Yes, I have.
Clean. So those who are struck, thank you. And Councillor Abbott has responded to Mr. Gansky. And Public Works Manager, the last four were to residents Cuthbertson, Craig, Gansky, and Nolte.
Done.
Done. Thank you. We're checked. Thank you very much. That does that, which brings us to the staff, the radar speed sign data, and the recommendation that the information on speed and traffic data on Mountain Drive and Ocean Road be received. I'll put that forward. Can I have a hand for a second, please? Thank you. Discussion and Public Works Manager, you'll be leading that.
Yes, Your Worship. So 260 Mountain, the average speed along that stretch for the 58 days that the sign was up was 30 kilometers an hour. The 85th percentile was 40 kilometers an hour. On 340 Ocean View, it was up for, I believe, 23 days. And the speed, the average speed was 23 kilometers an hour. The 85th percentile was 37 kilometers an hour. At 145 Mountain, the average speed was 27 kilometers and the 85th percentile at 37 kilometers. So what the data shows is that the majority of people are driving within the speed limits and within reason given the condition of the roads, i.e. when approaching a corner. However, there is concern with the data from 340 Ocean View and 145 Mountain with the excessive speeds. The motor vehicle branch defines excessive speeds as 40 kilometers over the speed limit. And we have quite a number of vehicles that were over that limit. I would add that both those locations are where the new radar signs were put up, so the ones that we just purchased. And I am reaching out to the manufacturer to check on the calibration and to try and ensure that those aren't anomalous readings.
Thank you very much. I'm sure many of us find it hard to believe that people would be knocking off speeds like that in those areas, but the data usually doesn't lie. Thank you very much for that. I would ask before I hand this off to councillors for questions. Public Works Manager, if you could insert perhaps an article into Village Update with this information as you did in the last one. That be okay?
Yep.
Perhaps we should be checking the veracity of the data before we go any further with both Village Update and in respect of RCMP.
Okay. So, Councillor, is that fine with you? You can open my council.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, I was going to suggest pretty much what the CIO is suggesting, that once the calibration is checked, that this should really be going to the RCMP, because I can't imagine them sitting on this one with those high speeds going along Mountain Drive, for example. It's just crazy.
Would you expect this to be done by the next meeting, Works Manager Jaffa?
I'm not sure. The company that manufactures these signs is in Europe. I have reached out to them, but haven't heard back. I will be following up this week.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Abbott, and then Councillor Bremner.
Yeah. So, as you were talking there, well, getting myself confused because I was hearing 260 when you said 145 and vice versa because of those speeds. It is physically impossible to do those speeds on 145. You could never do it. I don't think there's a car in the world that could possibly come around that hairpin bend and need 160. It's completely impossible. Sorry, no, but then it dawned on me. I went back to the beginning of your report because I was thinking I had them the other way around based on the speeds, but I do know the areas. Your report, the numbering on your report, you've numbered them incorrectly. 145 is number 1. That's the one on the hairpin bend coming up to Sunset. So is it possible the data switched?
I don't think so. I can take a look. And yeah, I have the same
on the map on your page 1 of your report, are you looking at it? You can see that the numbers wrong.
The numbers are wrong. Yes, I see that, but the data isn't. The data is a data file. It's downloaded, and it gives me the exact GPS coordinates. So that's where the address 145 came from. And I did take into account your comment about it's physically impossible. The only thing I can think of is high speed or high end motorcycles that could do that, but I'm not sure.
Not possible, and certainly not in the east-west direction.
Yeah, so I'll look into that.
Thank you very much. So we'll just, I think my suggestion here is that I'll go to Councillor Farmer, but maybe we should table this until the authenticity is done. Okay, so Councillor Farmer.
Yeah, just a quick, maybe just a piece of information. The sign on Ocean View never showed speed or smiley face, or there was no visual feedback, and I thought that was part of the campaign. So maybe that sign has issues than we think.
No, so essentially the feedback was the way the unit was set up. So it was only set up to flash if you approached 35K or close to 40K. At that point, it'll flash. If you're doing under that, it won't flash.
Okay.
I've discussed this with staff, and we've revised the speed limits, the settings, so that if you're doing over 20, it will flash either a smiley face or not in the new locations. That was more a staff setting up of the unit than it was the actual unit itself.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Can I ask a quick question? Are these signs capable? I spent a lot of time going over the Second Narrows Bridge and back, and they have these speed signs that flash red and blue. And it really makes you think that there's a police officer there potentially. Like, so you really do pump the brakes. Do these signs have that capability as opposed to a smiley or a sad face?
I don't believe they have the ability to change color, but there is the ability to change from a smiley face to text message or some other image. I'll check to see if we can change the color.
Something that's a little more visceral.
Yeah, we'll look into that.
Thanks, Nye.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor. And okay, perfect. So I'll get my advisors. We put this forward in a motion. We're in a discussion, and we've agreed that we're going to table this. So I'll put forward the amended motion that we table the item. Are you guiding me here?
Yeah, you can receive the report and then it can be brought up later.
Okay, so I would amend. Well, we've actually done it for receipt. So yes, okay, so we're in good legal standing, and we'll just ask staff to bring it back when they've got more defining information. Call a motion. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes. Opposed, no. Thank you. Good. Next one is the mayor stuff, and I've got a couple of questions, and these are for staff. And if I could ask for a brief update on emergency social services and emergency operations center. our new recruits and their training and where we are and what we're doing.
Sorry, I dropped the ball on that one. I don't have that information for you.
Okay, thanks, Sam.
I know that information did go out to all of the participants who signed up, and we had an initial first meeting with everybody, an introductory meeting, and talked about the program for ESS volunteers and the program for EOC volunteers. That was followed up by Mr. Whitney sending out links to the course materials that are online. I think there was a couple of emails back from volunteers indicating that they either wanted to switch their preference or were going to take a pass for the time being. But I don't have a complete sort of picture to provide to you. Just that the information has gone out to them. Anybody who so desires could be accessing materials at this point in time at their own pace and leisure. I just don't have hard numbers on how many we have under each program.
Thank you. Sia, would it be fine with you if we carried this item over to our last meeting in July?
Yep.
And you give us the hard numbers, not, and I do a quick report by you or Mr. Whitney. Thank you. Councillors, any other quick question, given that we're asking for another report in the next meeting? All good? Thank you. Next item is the Lions Bay Rural Dividend Fund response. I've sent this out to council and it's also in public correspondence. And just a quick, this is somewhat relevant to the urban containment boundary discussion. As every mayor worth his salt, I will apply for every fund, every grant, whether it's urban, rural, or whatever it is. And in this case, CAO DeJong and I had tried to get be involved in the rural dividend program. And we've gone, we thought we had some qualified projects and went through it. The key deal here was that we set our case up that we were more rural than urban and that we would qualify for this fund. I'll just excerpt from their reply as to why we did not qualify, because they didn't consider we were rural. While the criteria that eligible communities must have a population of less than 25,000 and be located outside of Metro Vancouver and Capital Regional Districts has not changed, the program will consider requests for exception on a case-by-case basis. Maintaining the rural focus of the program and continuing to meet the needs of small and remote communities are key considerations in the evaluation of requests for exceptions to the eligibility criteria. During the evaluation of exception requests, the program examines 1, community proximity and access to large urban centers, including highway linkages and access to transportation. 2, the economic integration of the community with large urban centers, including the commuting rates of residents, and 3, the economic need of the community. And then sadly, based on their criteria, which was investigated by a credible third party, we did not qualify. So I'm just bringing up that as information. And I have nothing more on that. The next item that I have is public art installation under the bridge. And this comes from the Arts Council. Let me just get my notes right here. Just a second. And they have approached us, and we have approached Modi to see if they can put artwork underneath the bridge here. And CAO, if you could just give us a quick update on that. I think you've asked Mr. Butler to participate with this.
Yeah, the building inspector has been speaking with the Modi technician and talking about the manner in which the panels on the south side would be affixed to the abutment. And and what kind of paint would be used on the north side and so forth. So those conversations are ongoing, and the requirements being figured out as they go.
Thank you very much. So the quick skinny is I can't tell you what the artwork looks like. I know that we're not funding it. It's coming from the Arts Council. But I think it's relevant to know that this piece of work is in progress.
I think the intent is a competition of sorts for that artwork.
Thank you very much, CEO. The next item up, and I would ask Works Manager Jaffer to give us an update on potential expense reduction by putting our purchases through the West Vancouver through their enhanced purchasing power.
Your worship, we are working with West Vancouver to create a memorandum of understanding between Lions Bay and West Vancouver, whereby West Vancouver would include a clause within each of their tender proposals that would allow us to tag on to their contracts. So it would allow us to assume the buying power that West Van has in determining contract prices. The other part of that would be that West Van would offer us first dibs on any used equipment that comes up for replacement in West Van.
Excellent. And you've got your eye on a piece or two?
That's correct. Yeah, we're working out the details.
Good. I'm excited about this because I know as Councillor Abbott says we need to move the needle on the expense side, and this looks like a great opportunity for us to piggyback off of Barola municipality. I presume you would be finished by our meeting in September with this?
I'm hoping so, yes.
Could I ask that you confirm that in our September meeting?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. You may be able to quantify what our savings might be at that time. I can go in camera if you need to.
It depends solely upon what contracts they have coming up and that they can include us in. So for example, their office supply contract comes up in January. And if that clause is included in there, then we may partake in that. But if nothing else comes up, that would be the only contract. So
okay,
it's dependent upon what comes up.
So we'll catch the rolling ball over time.
Correct.
Good. Thank you very much, Sam. Okay, I look forward to hearing that's concluded. Next up is Councillor Abbott. You've got two items. Councillor Abbott, Block Watch and Bear Smart, whichever you want to go first.
I'll go ahead. I'll talk about the Block Watch first, I guess. So the Block Watch is been moving along. We've been making some progress under Karen's coordination. The transferring of the maps and the lists from the original Block Watch coordinator Simons is in progress. Karen has been in contact with a few of the individual captains, and probably by next meeting, I think we'll be able to give a bit of a more detailed report as to what's happened, next steps, and where we have gaps in the Block Watch. But just to let everyone know that it is moving forward, albeit a little slowly, but we'll be gaining some momentum soon. The Bear Smart team in the last council meeting, I was sort of off. Well, I don't know if I volunteered myself or how it came about, but anyway, council agreed that I should go out and see if we can put together a group of people that would be interested in refreshing our Bear Smart commitment. And I did that. We have 3 people that have stepped forward, so I'd just like to thank them publicly. Amber Brown, Mandy Clark, and John Zhu. We had a preliminary meeting last night. Lots of great ideas, lots of energy, lots of enthusiasm. This is not a group you need to hold back, that's for sure. So that part of it was great. I have also been in contact with Norma Rogers, who is going to be assisting us with this transition to the new group. So I'd like to thank Norma for her years of service on this and for her assistance in helping us transition. And then once again, thanks to Amber, Mandy, and John for stepping forward. And once again, as we get it, we're going to meet again in another week and a bit, 2 weeks, which will be before the next meeting, and I'll give you some more details in that meeting.
Thank you very much, Councillor Abbott. And I've been on a couple of councils, and I've seen the most recent work that all of our councillors are doing, whether it's on the 50th anniversary, the climate action, the block watch, the Bear Smart. You know, I'm a pretty lucky mayor when I've got councillors are like Rudolph pulling on the sled here, and you're managing to attract residents and revitalizing things that we took for granted for a very long time. I want to thank Councillor in particular for these two topics. Thank you very much, because they were not going in the right direction until you took that. And to my other colleagues that I've mentioned on the other committees that you sit on, truly I count my blessings at night, Chief. Thank you all for the work that you do for us. Next piece is the committees, and it's the 50th anniversary committee, and the minutes you can see are there.
Oh, excuse me, Mayor. Did you intend to miss 8B2?
See, have I missed something, Councilor?
Kelvin Grove Raft is on there, 8B2.
That's going in camera.
Oh, sorry, my mistake.
Okay, thank you. But I appreciate you keeping me on my toes. Thank you. So the next one is item D, which is the 50th anniversary committee, and the minutes are in your package. And the request of the committee has come along to the point that, as Mayor Broughton said, this is going to be a happening deal. So I'll just go through the motion, and I understand that I haven't been contacted for any additional pieces to add to this. That council endorses village staff to work with the 50th anniversary committee and the Olympic Rally volunteers to implement logistics for parking, special event signage, and insurance for the Olympic Rally event to take place on July 23rd from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. at the Lions Bay Elementary School field, and that council authorize in-kind support for the Olympic Rally event through the village provision of barricades, public works staff, lawn mowing prior to the event, extra bylaw enforcement staff, and the council authorized no payment for parking on the day of the event from 5 to 8 p.m. on the streets adjacent to the school, and that council authorizes staff to publish the information through special village updates, and that council authorized staff to issue a letter to cake sponsors of the event confirming that it is an official committee event, and that council grants an exception to noise bylaw number 283, 1998 to allow for live amplified music on July 23rd from 5:30 to 9 p.m. I'm so happy to put forward that recommendation. Can I have a second? There you go. Thank you very much. Councillor Cunliffe, can I get you to lead the discussion? I know you know what the one item that we're looking for to be done is.
Sorry, there I am off mute. Sorry, pardon me, Ron, could you repeat that?
This would be the, what's the term? Communicable disease transition.
Yes, absolutely. So we are very fluid in maintaining what the health authority is directing, and it's changing really weekly to weekly. So we will be in compliance with whichever the health authority has determined is safe at that time. If contact tracing is still relevant, we will post at the 2 tables that you enter a clipboard to please sign up. We will have some sanitized pens available, hand sanitizer. When it comes to serving the cake, whether masks are, recommended or not, we will advise that we're in gloves and masks just to reduce any sort of potential impact. So really, we're just taking direction from the health authority, maintaining social distancing, messaging. And on the 21st, I believe we'll put out our final notification in the VU outlining those specific symptoms that I'm not sure if you are all required to do in your place of business and or when you visit the dentist. If you have these 5 symptoms, please stay at home and enjoy it from there. Don't come. So we will, it changes day to day. We're going to follow exactly what is being asked of us. And any questions on any of that?
You'll have that to staff before before the 21st.
Absolutely. We're going to kind of wait until generally by Thursday of the week prior, we get the new issue of what we can expect till the next Thursday. So whatever is issued on the Thursday prior to the 24th is what we will have published in the Wednesday village update as what is protocol and what is the expectation.
Thank you very much. CIO, any questions?
I don't think so. Carla,
No.
you got anything?
I think Councillor Cunliffe's
Sorry.
subject, I'm handing it back to CIO in a second. Without Councillor Cunliffe, actually, I'm happy to say that it's gotten this far. I basically covered off the one item on the tick sheet. CIO, back to you.
Just when you read out the resolution, I think the time for which no parking is in effect. It says here 5 to 10 p.m. I'm not sure if you said that though when you read it out.
I think I did hear Ron say 8 p.m. Point of correction.
So should it be 8 p.m. or 10 p.m.?
5 to 10. They'll be breaking down the stuff, I would think.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else, any questions for what I know of this or for Councillor Cunliffe for the CAO? I think it's going to be a bang up event, and I think Victoria Rogers, who I've sent her as the CEO of the event, and she's got many executive working and lots of hands going on with this.
I would actually just like to make a quick note on that. Victoria has rallied, I would have to say, a couple dozen volunteers, all in different capacities, all with a different workload. It's a machine that is really moving seamlessly. Thank you to former Mayor Broughton for also really pioneering this. It's really highlights the spirit of the volunteerism here in the village and what can be pulled together in a very short period of time. I believe Victoria approached me maybe 2 weeks ago, and here we are now, and it's full steam ahead. So it's pretty impressive and exciting to see what we can accomplish as a small village.
Well, I agree, Councillor Cunliffe. I think Mayor Broughton is going to be known as the event meister after this one in the Wade Park pull off too. Thank you. Councillor Barmier, you had your hand up. Don't be shy.
No, I was just applauding the effort.
Good, thanks very much. I will call a motion. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes. Those opposed, no.
Yes.
Yes.
Finally passed unanimous. Thank you. Next item, which is mine, I'll just do. This is also part of the 50th committee, and it's out there. It's supposed to, if it goes ahead, depending on the fishing closure, it will be on the day of the firemen's deal in September, which I understand is September the 11th. So between now and then, which is largely when we're on break, should this be a go because of the fishery opening, there may be some, well, there would be some requests for village update notification capability. I'm sure, I'm going to presume that's okay. I think the quick skinny on this is that the logistics are still a bit of a moving target, but the subcommittee leader has got big ideas. It's other than a nominal prize for the winning fisherman under 16, the 50th anniversary committee is not putting forward any funding towards this. The subcommittee leadership thinks they can do it through fundraising, through approaching corporations and others. And their intention is that while there may be some minor distribution to the successful classes of fishers, that the proceeds ultimately go to Lions Bay Fire and Rescue. You can ask questions, but I don't have any more answers. Thank you. Everybody's up to date on that. Last item is, next item then is number E, which is on page 57. And the motion is.
Sorry, Ron. Ron, we had another one under committees, Climate Action Committee. There was 2 updates.
Oh, sorry, Norm.
No worries.
There you
No
go.
worries. So I just touch on 2 pieces of information from the Climate Action Committee. One's bit of a bigger opportunity. It's a new federal grant program called the Green and Inclusive Community Buildings Program. It's a $1.5 billion, that's billion-dollar program that runs over the next 5 years. And the intent of the program is to build more community buildings and improve existing ones while also making the buildings more energy efficient, lower carbon, more resilient, and higher performing. So it funds projects anywhere from $100,000 to $3 million. And I think it's an opportunity we should explore. So the request of the Climate Action Committee is initially for some staff time and support to look at the cost of certain retrofits, specifically the community hall. And we might be able to take that a bit further, but that was the initial request of the Climate Action Committee is that staff look at this grant opportunity and provide some support to the Climate Action Committee in terms of staff time to set up a baseline and see what can be done. And if there's an opportunity for us to take advantage of this grant. I don't know if there's any questions for fellow councillors, and if in general for an agreement, it'd be nice if we could support that ask of some staff time.
Right, articulate the specific request and make it a motion.
So the request is for the Climate Action Committee to receive staff time to support investigating costs of certain retrofits of the community hall.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kennelich, do you want to second that?
Second. Thank you,
very much.
Councillor Barmeyer.
Thank you very much. Discussion for Councillors Kennelich and Barmeyer. What kind of time frame turnaround are you looking here?
Well, it's a 5-year program. So there's no urgency to it. There's no immediate urgency to it, but I think the baseline work needs to happen. In other words, understanding what our current GHG footprint is in the community hall and identifying opportunities for improvement and trying to figure out if we can put a price tag on that and then apply for some funding.
CAO, any comments?
Yeah, I'm just not sure that we have all the data necessary to determine what our GHG footprint is, other than our heating costs.
Yeah, I don't think we need to get into the technicality of it. We're looking for support in principle to start and establish a baseline. We're not asking for staff to do that, but just to support us. And we need to define exactly what that looks like. It might involve an initial study for someone to come out and see where our big uses are, and then see if we can, let's say, replace the oil burning furnace, replace the windows. There's lots of questions to be answered, but we need to, in principle, have the spirit of support from staff.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, in principle, sure, that some of those things might require some funds in order to have somebody look at determining what the cost might be for something like that. So,
Councillor Barmeyer, can you refresh my memory? Does this fall kind of in step with the Green Homeowners federal grant that was put out, where there is actually a portion of the grant is to have an auditor come to your home and diagnose where the deficiencies are? Does the same application?
It's a separate program. It's a separate
program.
Yeah, it's specific to community infrastructure.
Do we know if they provide an auditor to come out and do an assessment for, to absorb the cost of looking into where our deficiencies are?
Yeah, it's a good question. That's a good question.
We can find out more information on that, but there very well may be a grant portion built into that.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Abbott.
Yeah, I think my question was kind of getting a little bit answered as Norm and Peter spoke a bit further. Yeah, if we're talking about approval in principle to move ahead, that's fine. But on my first questions were, do we have any understanding of staff time and budgets? And so clearly, we if it's just that, just to agree to go ahead in principle with whatever it takes to get the whole updated to the standards we need with as little money as possible. And absolutely, I'm in support of that. Sounds like a good initiative. And I guess to Peter's point, there'll be some point when people will come back and will be asking for dollars, and we're getting some more details then.
Yeah.
So should we, Councillor Burmer, should we be asking that this come forward again, say, first meeting in October, something like that?
Yeah, I guess I'm looking for support in principle for some staff time for questions that the Climate Action Committee can't answer without a bit of research. We're not asking to spend money or hire anyone. We're just looking for data that's available, and we can identify those gaps as we work through this to see what the application calls for. And if there's technical gaps that we can't answer with staff support, then we'll come back to council, identify those gaps and say, look, we might need a bit of money for a GHG study specific to the community hall, whatever it happens to be. I don't have those specific technical gaps identified, but the idea is to create a baseline with staff support. And we've got an opportunity here, and $1.5 billion that the feds are offering communities shouldn't just be ignored. I think we stand to win some of this money. And so I'm suggesting we start looking at it, and that will involve some support from staff. I can't give you an exact number.
Thank you very much. So before I call a motion, so we'll ultimately leave it with the CAC and staff to exchange the information. And if you need a budget, you're going to come forward.
Yep.
Enough. Any final questions before I call a motion? Called. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes. Opposed, no.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Next item is the emergency
Sorry,
services.
Ron, there's one more piece from the Climate Action Committee. The second piece is exploring the concept of a green procurement strategy, and the ask of the Climate Action Committee to Council is a simple one, is that staff provide us the current procurement policy, and then we can just start to look at it and see if there's a way for us to thread in some language that could look at a future replacement of assets with green tech, for example. So the ask is that we get a copy of our current procurement policy.
CAL, I'm going to speculate what your answer is.
I think it's on the website.
Oh, okay.
Done.
We'll pull it off ourselves. Thanks, Peter.
Good.
There's probably also, we've been looking at having a redo of purchasing policy for a while, and there have been ideas that have been put into folders and things like that. So there may be some draft things that have been collected and some ideas that we can also share. So
that'd be much appreciated. Yeah, thanks, Peter. Appreciate it. Thank you.
There you go. Thank you very much. Good work again to the co-chairs and CAC. Thank you. And next up is the emergency services report. And I'll put forward a motion that the Surrey Regional Fire Dispatchment monthly report be received. Can I have a second with a hand? Thank you. On the discussion, these graphs or charts are like out of this world with design. The red and yellow lines are just really captivating. There you go. Councillor Bain, I defer to you and stuff like this. Any comment that we should be aware of in this stuff?
No real comments. Quite frankly, I find the information really not too helpful. I mean, I don't know what to say. How busy are they? Well, they don't look too busy at all. I guess that's a good thing for us. Sorry, I don't know what we can do with the information on it other than have a sort of check the pulse of how active the emergency services are here.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillors, any questions before I call the motion? None called. All those in favor confirm by saying yes. Opposed, no.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. And item number 9, and this is the resolution from with respect to Lions Bay House concerts. And it's a request for exemption to the noise bylaw. And the applicant has been on giving us her story. And I think we've made the amendment here, but just for clarity, that council grant an exception to noise bylaw number 283-2998 to allow for live amplified music at the Village Hall on Saturday, July 24, 30, and 31, 2021, and for dates which are to be determined while council is not in session between 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. for the Lions Bay House concerts. I happily put that forward. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you. Any questions from council? I think this is as Ms. Lecce asked for, it's open-ended on the known date request, and I'm sure she can work with staff to find arrangements for the hall. But I'm open to any questions, and if you have any, we'll bring the applicant back on. Gone, there being none.
Yep, sorry. My standard question when we have these kind of applications is just an understanding of the total number that may happen over the summer. Maybe Tamara can just give us some level of comfort.
Hi guys. I'm
Thank
doing some
you.
painting. Right now I have Lila Bialy, who's coming as a trio on the 24th. I have Carrie Morin, who's coming across the border. He's a blues artist, and he's coming over the border just for us. And he has got his clearance as of July 5th. He's allowed to come play. And I have, that's on the 30th. I have another artist pending on the 31st, and potentially someone else in August. But I also have a ukulele series, I learned to play the Beatles by ukulele that I was going to do remotely. It's a free to attend that may make sense to either offer in the hall or in an outdoor space. We'll kind of see what the artist feels like doing, and also where the village staff are at in terms of their feeling in terms of accommodation and best fit. So yeah, that's kind of all I'm planning to do, and I'm saving the rest for December. But it would be nice that if an opportunity like Dan Brubeck jumps out, it would be nice to be able to say, yes, let's do it and follow the COVID. I've filed a COVID safety plan with the village that is following an overabundance of caution, like we are not serving food because of the liability issue. So there's no self-service of food. There's no drink. There'll be water on site, still and sparkling, but there's no juice, no alcohol, kind of stuff. It's a true listening concert, and they'll all be done in that style. And an overabundance of caution. Everybody's been seated in their bubbles. We are accessing 2 exits, entrances and exits. Exit and entrance A and entrance and exit B. I have created or commissioned an outdoor hand wash station, which will be positioned at the entrance. So everyone coming in will be wearing a mask while arriving, while leaving, and while circulating, and possibly while sitting. We will be following health guidelines, but we will also exercising and over and above due care, because we really just don't want to be the place where someone comes into contact with someone. And we are collecting all contact tracing information for all attendees. So all attendees are ticketed individually, so we know every bum in seat, what their email address is. And they've also agreed to a full liability release waiver that's over and above what the village requires. So, yeah.
Alrighty, thank you very much, Tamara.
Yep.
And you're going over the top with precautions. Thank you. And I know on behalf of all the council, we wish you every success in every occasion that you host. Councilor,
thank you. I just don't want to be on the 6 o'clock news. It'll
only happen once. There you go. Thank you. Councilors, any more questions for Tamara while she's still on? There being none, I'm going to call a motion and ask for everybody's concurrence for the specified dates and open-ended on the other side. I'll call that motion. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes. Those opposed, no.
Yes.
Unanimous,
you.
Tamara. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
for-
I would just like to add that a certain portion of the seats are community tickets. So if you know of someone who is in stress or experiencing financial hardship, you can submit their name to me in the utmost of confidence and I'll give a complimentary ticket.
Thank you very
So
much.
do reach out if you know of someone in need. That would be great because the musical concerts are just fabulous. People shouldn't be missing them because they can't afford to attend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for breathing a little life back into the village tomorrow.
There we go.
Thank you for all that you do, Jamie.
Item number 10, bylaws. And I is put forward the motion that council procedures bylaw number 4.
Oh, sorry. Perhaps before you put forward the motion, I can speak to this item.
Sure.
So it's come to my attention that the province has actually decided that while they did lift the state of emergency as of July 1st, they have left in place Ministerial Order 192, which means that the current or the previous situation where all of council can attend council meetings electronically from any location is still in effect and will be until September 28th. They have also said that they are putting together a guideline of sorts with best practices for electronic meetings, helpful suggestions, a little late in the day, but going forward, and that this is, I think this is material that we ought to have a look at before we go and amend the bylaw. So there's no rush as I had expected there would be. So I suggest that we simply table this for now and wait to see what recommendations come down from the province, and then look at the potential of incorporating some or all of those recommendations as council sees fit.
I've got no objection to tabling. In terms of information, I can tell you that this has already started to make the rounds at our related organizations, TransLink and Metro. Metro only recently started to bring some of their staff back into the tower. So they're far away in terms of getting the, well, they'll be just like TransLink, it'll be September meetings now. But my sense, if I get the gauge of the last TransLink meeting where the TransLink executive were suggesting, we're all back together, we're all good, it's all, forget about Zoom, just get into the boardroom on these dates. And there was considerable pushback by my mayor colleagues that have come to enjoy not driving to Sapperton from Lions Bay or Maple Ridge to Burnaby Metrotown. So I'm sure that CAO DeJong will also be getting information from his counterparts there as well as to what best practices might be going forward in September on. So I think we didn't. I didn't do the motion, so I think I'll put forward the motion on the table. We'll just go right to the vote. All those in favor, please confirm by saying yes. Those opposed, no.
Aye.
Yes.
Thank you. Next item, correspondence. It is. Councillor Bormare, are you ready to go, or did you want to alternate, or what would you like to do?
Yeah, you might be able to help me out in some of the ones that are a bit above me. So I'll start with the first one here, Rail Safety Week resolution. I think this one's fairly straightforward. CN provides the language, and it seems to make a lot of sense for us to support this and perhaps take it a step further and include it in our view, just to raise the awareness around rail safety. So my suggestion would be that we endorse this as well.
I concur. I'd recommend that staff bring this forward at our next council meeting. We'll confirm it, which would be we can publish it when we come back, or as staff does. And I can tell you that CN's been a great partner of ours financially, on the rail and with the police and thinking about us. So I'm in support of that. I presume my colleagues are. Would that be fair to say yes? Opposed, no?
Yes, and I believe it was Constable Riley that you and I met. I saw him down there just this past week with another officer and some good showing. So appreciate their support.
There you go. Thank you very much, Councillor Council. I'll ask staff to bring this forward as a motion at the next meeting. Thank you. City of Pitt Meadows.
Oh, go ahead, Ron.
Truth and Reconciliation Commitment. I'd suggest we receive that for information.
Yeah, District of Squamish and Township of Spelchin are also letting us know initiatives they're taking, not specifically relevant to us. In terms of June 17th, MP Peter Julian talking about anti-hate crimes and incidents of Bill C-313 banning symbols of hate act. I just wanted to remind council that we supported Burnaby's May 10th proclamation as a day of action against anti-Asian racism. We put an article in the View to that effect, and I don't think we should stop there. I think we can endorse MP Julian in this ask.
Fine, colleagues, is that a yes?
Yes.
Councillor Abbott?
Sorry, I was just scrambling through on the item number on page 9, the Township of, I can pronounce that, the resident rate review resolution. Did that have was there an ask for support on that, and it did have a timeline? I think this is about the whole step to electrical pricing thing, which we've spoken about, and I had a resident working with me on, but we thought we had to wait for another time. So, yeah, I'm just wondering if we shouldn't try support that, because I think it might be in our interest if there is another opportunity to provide input. But I didn't pick up on a timing, to be honest, when I read the letter.
Yeah, I don't see a date. I think they had this meeting at the beginning of June, and I think they're just letting us know.
We missed it.
Yeah. So our next item on again, MP Wheeler letting us know about a social development partnership program. Next item, page 16, is MP Wheeler talking about information around elder abuse initiatives and requesting an organization to participate in the consultation. And I think that that's open until July 22nd, if I read that correctly. And I was suggesting perhaps we add a link to our website so that people can participate. Page 17 is MP Wheeler Agricultural Clean Tech Program. It's not really specifically relevant to us. Page 18 is the Canadian Wildfire Service talking about bank swallow recovery strategy. And again, while I think this is a very worthwhile effort, it's not relevant to our region. So that's for information. The following, the Community Youth Survey, again, that's for information from MP Wheeler. City of North Vancouver is looking at safe passing distance for all road users as far as cyclists are concerned. And I do think that this is for information, but it's always a good piece to draw your awareness to on our highway, especially in the summer. We've got lots of road cyclists heading up and back, whether they're going to Whistler or wherever, but there's lots of road cyclists on our stretch of highway. So we should just heed this advice and give them space if we can, change lanes, curb your speed, just be aware of how vulnerable a cyclist is on our highways. City of Colwood is letting us know that they are supporting the 988 crisis prevention hotline, and we've talked about this in the past. MP Wheeler is letting us know that there's an emergency preparedness town hall, and I guess similar to the previous ask is wondering if it makes sense or if staff could publish a link and a date to this in the view so that we could provide some additional emergency preparedness information. I don't know if Councillor Abbott or Councillor Bain have anything to add to that specific piece of correspondence.
Yeah, I think we should specifically target all the people that signed up for ESS and EOC and send it to them.
Okay.
So, you want to have a listen? I'm not sure.
CAO through you to Robert, can you send that message?
Yep.
Thank you, done. Thank you, Councillor Abbott.
Following to 33 and 34 are again MP Wheeler providing information on Canada Community Revitalization Fund and the Canada Disability Benefit. The next one, 35, is a natural.
Sorry, can we just go back to the Canada Community Revitalization Fund? Are we going to plan, Peter, or do we have anything we're targeting for that program? And what kind of jumps to mind when I read it, if the beach park didn't come through this time and you wanted to just do a washroom, it seems to fit perfectly into that program. Staff or anyone who looked at it or got any opinions?
I guess the concern was we still hadn't heard back from the grant. So we have an active grant out for the beach park and the deadline was July 23rd, or is July 23rd. So it's a very tight deadline. And I'm not sure we would be eligible because we have another grant application out for the beach park washroom. It was the timeline. We just got notification. It was a very, very tight deadline, July 23rd, to apply for a grant.
Sorry, I must have misread. I must have read the deadline differently.
I was surprised how tight it was.
Considering you sent it out on June 25th. Yeah. Councillor Abbott, I think on behalf of all of us in council, I think I'm going to take my lumps if we lose the beach park grant and just move on. So, I mean, I get the part about we do. We're just never going to move on that part if we keep applying.
I did click through and read some other stuff, and that's why I missed this 23rd. And it says strongly encouraged to submit deadline by June 23rd. So maybe there's an opportunity for a later submission if something goes awry on the other one. Maybe we can just we can flag it to revisit it later.
Okay.
Thank you. So the ask is, would staff have a quick look at it and CFO, you've agreed to do that?
Yes.
We can keep it as a backup plan for the beach park. And I'm suggesting purely the washroom because it seemed to be about smaller projects and stuff. It has to be under 750,000. They recommend under 500,000 is the sweet spot. So a couple of 100,000 for a washroom. It seemed to fit well from that point of view.
CFO, from your experience, does one grant application look like all the other ones? No.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Well, I'm trying to gauge the work here in a compressed period.
There's very few questions on the project and just more and more questions on asset management.
Luckily it's the questions we can answer them. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Good pickup to both of you. And Councillor Barmer, let's keep going.
Yeah, just three more here. Again, MP Wheeler, Natural Infrastructure Fund, and I had sort of asked the question of whether staff if this was on staff's radar, and if you'd looked into this, if there's anything for us in this particular fund. It's just being kicked off. The next piece, Metrovan board and brief. I had made some comments here that we need to align ourselves with what's happening around us and support clean transportation. One of the more specific comments I had picked up on, and just bear with me here, is page, sorry guys, I'm navigating a PDF file and I have to scroll to where it is. So it's page 36. A second here, I made some more notes for myself. And I wanted to draw your attention to E 1.3 clean transportation sector profile. The clean transportation sector presents an immense opportunity for Metro Vancouver region as the world seeks solutions to climate emergency, driven by the specialization of hydrogen and fuel cell technology. The sector includes low and zero emission vehicles and components, yada, yada, yada. There's, basically, it seems that Metro as a region is recognizing the importance of clean transportation and zero emission transportation. So I just want us to hear the message as a small community that we also have a responsibility here. And it's happening all around us and we don't want to be left behind. So that's what I take away from that. And now we move on to.
Can I had a couple of takeaways on that one that maybe I just want to get people's attention to or just talk about.
Yeah.
So page 38. So this is, Ron, I mean, I think you know about this. This is about the ongoing house on fire protection and the neighboring communities around Lions Bay and Stratton Point and so on. And the last statement says the study recommends consideration of separate fire service for each area in phases subject to support from residents and negotiation of service agreements with the village of Lions Bay. Is there something we expect coming to us soon here? Does anyone else want to comment? And is it the support of the Montezuma Wind and Stratton Point residents, or is it support from Lions Bay residents they want? It's not quite clear, but I guess
they need the support of their residents. Each of these small communities has got infrastructure requirements, some considerably large, some less, and they may desire on what level of fire service protection they'd like to negotiate with Lions Bay. So this paragraph is all about the electoral area A executive going to little communities, educating them, getting them ready for tax increase to do the prep work, in which case, as I said in my last mayor's message, that I'm hopeful this will come back in some form that the residents have agreed to do the upgrades. And if that was the case, then the chief would be interested on CAO and pursuing discussions further. Until that happens, so it's not our call. Our residents are not at play for this, given that there'll be a mutual aid. So if we go there, somebody else comes here. The only thing for the residents is presumably more revenue to us through fee for service, and also I can't imagine we wouldn't charge them a capital allocation.
Yeah, I did notice that the report said the community of Ocean Point, as opposed to the other two, has no immediate infrastructure deficiency. So I guess we can expect them to come knocking on the door pretty soon. Yeah, but I mean, Councillor, this is the chief's got a strong view on this, and he's working with the CEO. So I'm at a pretty high level on this one, but here we go. We're as informed as we can. I hope this comes together from a revenue standpoint, but these small communities need to come to the plate. But you're right, and I think that's where this phase in could come. If it's an easy fix, you want coverage. As I understand it, some of these communities, these homes are paying $10,000 a year for fire insurance.
Yeah, I'm not sure how someone's going to back a fire truck all the way up Montezuma Wind when they head in one direction. There's no turnaround there, so it's complicated.
Councillor Barmer, you're under pressure.
Sorry, last one. Go ahead.
Ron, one other thing that jumped out at me, I just want to draw everyone's attention to. E3.14 Metro Transit Tree Regulations Toolkit. 3 sentences lower down there. I don't know what this thing looks like, but it says it will be declined within the urban containment boundary over the next 20, 30 years. So is this the next thing that we're on the wrong side of the line? Just putting it out there, guys. So this urban containment boundary is being used again. Okay.
So the last piece of general correspondence is a letter from the District of Peachland appealing to the province for the CARIP incentive program, which is essentially carbon revenue. And I just, the reason I want to draw attention to this is because it's not the first time we've had a community write a letter like this. There will be more communities rallying for carbon credits of some form. It's essentially taking advantage of the carbon economy and getting revenue for GHG reduction projects. And I think we need to keep that in mind as a long-term source of revenue for Lions Bay. We've tried and failed twice to get a fast charger in place, which can generate revenue in one way by selling electricity, but it also has the potential to generate revenue by offsetting GHG and gaining carbon credits. So we just need to keep that in mind. This is a future revenue stream. This isn't going anywhere. It's part of the federal and provincial mandates, and we have an opportunity here. So I just want us to hear the message, and other communities are saying the same thing. This incentive program will come back in some form. Now onto resident correspondence. I believe most of it has been addressed, but I just want to go through it. We've got Mrs. Zordigan asking for longer bylaw enforcement hours. I don't know if we've gotten back to her on that specific ask. I don't know if there's resources available to accommodate this.
Yeah.
Do we want to discuss now or table for now?
Yeah.
We are looking at adjusting the weekday hours a little bit to shift more emphasis on coverage at the parks or around the dinner time. There seems to be a large influx of people at that point in time. But that's still in discussion stage, and I think that Mrs. Zordigan is looking for more in the way of staff resources late at night, after 10 p.m. kind of thing. And we don't have that on the capacity list at the moment in terms of providing double shifts every day of the week. We do double shifts on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So we have bylaw starting at 8 a.m. and going until 10:30 or 11, whenever the park closes. But we don't foresee pushing that into Monday through Thursday as a rule of thumb, unless it was a holiday or something like that.
Are we doing it the Thursday of garbage week?
Yeah, we've been doing that, and I've been getting some data from the bylaw officer. We're going to do it again this week and get another report. This week is garbage put out week, I believe. And so I'll then come back. Well, we'll take that information and do a couple of things. One of the things that we've noticed is people are putting out their recycling the night before or sooner, and recycling is included as something that you're not supposed to put out until the day of collection, 5 a.m. So, and then because of that, the reason being is lots of times people don't necessarily rinse out their containers, and they can still be, recycled products can be bare attractants a lot of times. So people are being advised and educated at this point in time. But we'll have something in the village update this week as well, emphasizing not to put out your recycling until the day of collection at 5 a.m. And we'll do that for a couple of weeks at least.
Thank you very much, Councillor Abbott.
Yeah, I think you beat me to the same question, but so Peter, is this program the night before garbage night still a little ad hoc? It's going to be once or twice. The Basemart team seemed to think they'd been told, and I won't say by who, that it's going to be all the way through the summer, but I would like sort of some confirmation on that.
I think we're looking for changes in behavior, and if we see those changes, then it may be that through education and where necessary enforcement, that people understand that they can't put out anything at all until the day of collection. As it stands right now, we're doing it this Thursday night, and we're going to do it probably next Thursday as well. That'll make 4 weeks in a row. And we'll see what the trend lines look like. And I can report back to council at the July 27th meeting, and we'll see how that's going. But yeah, do watch for that education material coming out.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay, the next piece is from a resident, Andrew Bradshaw, expressing concern about the guest passes not being valid in the paid parking areas. And I think we've addressed that directly with the resident, or is there a more general piece of information going out that people understand their guest passes are valid?
Yeah, I think we've addressed that in terms of letting people know that the guest passes are valid in the pay parking zones. Residents just have to fill in the residential address of their own residential address as to where that pass comes from, as well as signing it in ink.
Okay. The next, sorry, ahead, Ron.
Sorry, I think just, I think these residents have written in, Councillor Farmier, I think we've got the answer for Mrs. Zordigan. I'll undertake to write her back, but we've got the answer that on garbage week, we've got somebody till 10, and then Friday to Sunday inclusive, we're there till 10:30, 11. No further time during the week is contemplated at this time. And I think that Andrea Bradshaw I think she deserves an answer. My suggestion is to Ted. Yep.
Sorry, I might not have applied to this email, but I have answered her on that question, potentially in a different form.
In a different format, thank you.
So why don't I just get back and just say, as discussed.
So Councillor Barmer will give this one to Councillor Abbott.
Okay. The next piece is from Greg Weary, Climate Action Committee, trying to increase wildfire awareness in Lions Bay, and I believe his piece was included in the View recently. Just confirm that for me, Peter.
Yes.
It's in the update.
Yep. Great. Okay, thank you. The next piece is from Hugo van Hoogstraten with respect to resident parking on Bayview by the school. I don't know if that's been addressed.
I don't believe it has, and this is not the first person that's requested this as well.
Okay, so are we, I'm not exactly sure what the strategy here is.
So the program as it exists right now is got resident parking where it's feasible on the east side of Bayview, where the homes are. We also supplement that with 9 parking stalls in front of the school, which are now designated as resident parking. And the parking along the west side of Bayview is pay parking. And the feedback I'm getting lately from the bylaw officers is we're achieving high 90s percentile compliance. People are paying for parking for the most part. And, you know, out of say 50 cars, maybe 2 or 3 might not have paid. But we still do get a number of disputes for all the areas combined, the parking lots and other areas where they'll try to park and not, you know, be entitled to because it's resident parking or something like that. They don't have a pass. So we still are getting disputes, a lot of disputes to have to deal with. But we are seeing good compliance increased as this is rolling out, and as we're tweaking signage, bylaw officers are noticing that we're getting good compliance. So it's improving day by day, I think.
So Peter, I think you answered the question in the beginning. You said there's 9 parking spots in front of the school that are now resident only.
So the parking stall, there's 9 of them. There's 5 and 4 or 3 and 6 is how they're divided, I think. But some vegetation in between. That's by the stairs to the front of the school. So those were not previously designated as resident parking. We mistakenly had believed that those stalls were at least partly on school property. We did a survey and found that they're actually completely on road right of way. So we proceeded with the changes, and we were going to go in that direction anyway with the agreement of the school district. So that's been implemented and seems to be working as well.
So there are resident only parking there at the moment. That was the request.
Yeah, resident only for those stalls.
Okay.
Councillor Barmeyer, can you write back to this resident or pick somebody who will?
Yeah, thanks, Noel. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Noel.
The next piece is another parking piece from Marie Barretto and Alexandra Brown at 225 Mountain Drive. I'm not familiar with that property, but the photos attached would suggest that it's not really practical to park there, and I don't know if staff have looked at that any closer. They're suggesting that the landscaping and just the slope of it doesn't provide for adequate parking.
CAO?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that a little closer. I don't have an answer on that.
Can I ask that you respond to this from CAO?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. The next piece, Ron, I believe you've replied to Ivo Menke on this.
Yes.
Okay.
No, actually, no.
Okay,
My reply. Can I bring this into correspondence?
Yeah, I think the issue is that they've had a view, and now it's been obstructed by 2 new parking spaces they weren't expecting. So there's people parking where they weren't before, and then this particular resident feels that their view's been disturbed, and without going to the property, it's possibly hard to assess right here, right now. So I'd suggest we follow up.
Yeah, this is the area just south of the driveway that goes down to the gravel lot. Previously, what was there was no parking signage and no dumping. But there was no logical reason for the no parking. There's lots of space there. And it's a continuation of the parking that was implemented all the way along the west side of Bayview. And it provides an additional 2 or 3 spots along that stretch of Bayview. The view is, there's a grassy area there that leads to some vegetation that then leads to the containers that are in the parking lot below. But it wouldn't be obstructing, vehicles parking there aren't going to be obstructing a view of the water or the mountains or anything like that. The only thing that would be obstructed would be a view of the first 4 or 5 feet of grass on the other side of the road.
Councillor Barmeyer, would you recommend a councillor to respond to this or ask the CAO?
I'm happy to respond.
Ben?
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Barmeyer? Got out of that one. Okay.
The next piece, I believe Naive responded to the majority of these. They were emails around the kiosk wrap and the porta potties. I don't know if we need to go through them.
Councillor Barmeyer, you were done. Thank you. And only one more session before it's Councillor Cumleff's turn.
Yay.
There you go. All right. Thank you very much. Oh, the on table stuff. Sorry, Councillor Barmeyer, you're back.
Oh, okay.
I forgot about this nice little stack here that Carly gave me.
11B, is this the on table pieces?
Yeah, the 11B.
Okay, so there was one for Flynn Row, Ron, and I really don't have any background here.
No, that's the one that I've read out, the piece of rural designation, so done.
Okay.
Next one is from Mr. Monferred. Oh,
Next
sorry,
one
I
is
stand
actually from Ms. Gevertz with respect to UCB. I'm wondering if attendance at today's council meeting would have addressed some of that.
Since she spoke, I'm going to say that, and I see that she's still online, that we covered that.
Okay. The next is from Mr. Monferrad with respect to the urban containment boundary. Seems like we've got a lot of on-table correspondence with respect to the urban containment boundary.
Councillor Barmer, I'll offer to write him.
Okay. And the next piece is Marcus Reuter's petition and signatures on the petition with respect to wood burning and the urban containment boundary. And I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Abbott, but you might have the most background on this piece. Is this a resident you'd want to take on responding to?
Sure, I can.
There you go. I think a link to the video for the reference piece is probably going to give him what he wants in this one. Thank you very much, Councillor Abbott.
The next piece is from John Phillips, and I believe Diane Phillips was on the call today talking about exactly this. And Ron, you had some suggestions about how to handle it.
Yeah, I think this is for the CAO and CAO and the works manager. Just going through this, I mean, resident Hodgson has just done yeoman's work for a long time. The neighbors are pitching in, so as I'm scrolling, the berms are located on Modi property, but the residents have been keeping it up.
I think the essential take on this is they're looking for a little bit of forgiveness from bylaw for watering whenever a resident can volunteer, because there's no address, so it's not clear, distinct which side of the street and when. And because it is, you know, a public landscape they're trying to maintain, if we could ask bylaw to sort of stand down when a resident has volunteered to go out and water. I know that's one big part of it.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm just looking at the line as what, because these are people who are doing whatever they are with their lives, it's the watering hours and the bylaw officers. So I guess we'll turn this question the beautification of our village to the CAO. Can it be worked out with the bylaw officers?
Yeah, I don't see any issues with that.
Okay, so we'll do that. So that's both the watering and the bylaw. Next question, if I may, Councillor Barmer, continue. Take some responsibility for maintenance and even with the help of watering. I presume this is in the same area. I'm thinking that would be somewhat out of bounds, CAO.
Yeah, I think this is where we're just going to have to look at it carefully and discuss with I'll discuss with the public works manager and Modi.
Okay, if I respond to with your blessing, Councillor Barmer, I'll respond on this one too. Copy the works manager and CAO with a follow-up from them after they've had their meeting on works participation, if that's fine with you, CAO.
Yeah,
good, thank you. Okay.
So the last piece Ms. Simons brought up was essentially relating to our local views around the sound. And I don't really know how to participate in this, but I think it's open to feedback from communities in the area until August 20th, if I'm not the state.
Yeah.
And I don't know really who the right person is to champion this piece.
If I may, Councillor Barmere, I just slightly more in this one. Former councillor has done a lot of the legwork and the data gathering work. Is actually offered to do the work and send it into staff and with them to vet, as I understand this, and then send it off by August the 20th. Of course, we'll be all in different locations at that point, so there'll be no opportunity for council to precede, pre-approve, or confirm sending. My suggestion to you is that we go with Mrs. Simons' input, staff's vetting, and that we ask them to send it when they're satisfied with it. Everybody in concurrence with that?
Sure, I wouldn't mind getting a copy of the draft anyway.
But yes, of course.
Comments.
Municipal coordinator, can we see a copy of that in the September correspondence? Thank you very much. Thank you very much again, Councillor Barmere. And I think that brings us to the end of correspondence A and B, and there is no new business. And for those in the gallery who are still there, this is your opportunity to participate by way of unmuting and coming live. And if you've got any questions, comments, concerns, this is the time. Please come forward. I don't see anybody, so then we'll move on to the closed council meeting issues. So this is item number 14. The proposed topics for discussion in the absence of the public are 1, a competitive bid process, B, land, C, labor relations, D, bylaw enforcement, E, intergovernmental relations, and that the meeting be closed to the public on the basis of matters to be considered under the following sections of the community charter. Section 90, subsection 1, C, E, J, and K, and N, and section 90, subsection 2B. The council does not anticipate reconvening the open meeting for any purpose other than to adjourn the meeting generally and report out if applicable. That is what I propose, and that is what I put forward. Councillors, please confirm by responding positively yes, and those opposed no.
Yes.
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 And the last part, Councillor Abbott?
Yes, with a request for a bathroom break.
We will do that. In fact, let's make it a solid 5 minutes. And so to the audience, thank you very much for that. So we'll say good night to the gallery. Thank you for being with us. And municipal coordinator, if you'll kick them off, goodbye. So we'll break for 5.
Is there a new?
No, don't stay where you are. Stay where you are. Stay here. No, she sent that note around. Stay. Can you mute us in here, Carl? Oh.